I mean, what are we seeing and what connects events from as far afield as Tunisia in the west to Bahrain in the east? It affects republics and it affects kingdoms. It affects countries that have been pro-Western, if you like Egypt and Tunisia, and countries that have been more radical, like Libya and Syria. So clearly it's not the old politics, and I think it's a new politics, and it's a demand for dignity, a word that is often used, and I believe it's a demand for more representative forms of government, which the peoples of those countries have to decide what they want in that regard. And because I believe it's a demand for greater representative government, I think in the long run that helps Lebanon, which of course has a tradition of more open debate, of freedom of the press, of representative government than perhaps other countries in the region. But always in periods of transition, and I think in earlier periods we saw this in Eastern Europe and in Latin America, there are inevitably difficulties, inevitably setbacks. And there's also always the possibility of sectarian conflict. We saw that, for example, above all in the former Yugoslavia in the early mid-90s. Now, God forbid we see anything like that in the Middle East now, but you know, there have been concerns about events in Bahrain, given its division between Sunni and Shia there. And of course both the Sunni and Shia communities form part of Lebanese society.
With what's happening in neighboring Syria these days and the news that some arms smuggling through sea has been going from Lebanon this time, from Tripoli into Latakia or the coastal side of Syria. How concerned are you about these groups which are smuggling weapons to Syria?
Well, firstly, let me say that, of course, we've followed the events in Syria over the past week. I think the Secretary General has made at least one statement, Martin, expressing his concern and above all about the loss of life. And he spoke also with President Assad, I believe, late last week to underline that concern. I think what has been happening in Syria cannot be seen in isolation from this extraordinary wave of revolt which has swept from the Maghreb to the Gulf and encompassed so many countries: Tunisia, Libya, Egypt, Bahrain, Oman, Yemen, now Syria. In all cases, sadly, we've seen some loss of life. And I would hope that there will not be further loss of life, and especially in Syria, which of course is the immediate neighbor of Lebanon, and always affects developments within Lebanon. On the question of alleged arms smuggling from Lebanon, I've seen some press reports this morning, but I have no knowledge of that whatsoever.